back here. Excuse me, buddy. Go behind you.
We'll ask a younger person, yeah, we'll slide that back. Okay, you're perfect, you're perfect.
Dude, I'm part of the hearing.
Hey, let Danny, hey Miko, let Danny have that bigger chair, and we'll leave this one, yeah. Is that okay? He'll go back on, I think. He does, and I will roll in.
Look what I did.
It's okay, man, just push it down, just push it down, just go down. Don't worry about it. Okay. Okay, boy, we're right on time.
Get it?
Oh, it's not falling. That's
One,
falling
Mike.
off. Just hit that white button.
Mike, would you mind? Thank you.
You can sit right here.
Okay, are we okay, buddy?
Well, we got people standing somewhere?
Okay, buddy. Am I on the appointed place?
You ready to go? I think we got everything up and running. We good, Kev? Producer man?
You right there? Yeah, as long as you stay right there.
We're all set?
Good to go.
Okay, what a turnout. I think I know it's our biggest turnout ever. And we got out-of-staters, we got executives, we got camp owners of Camp Bass. We got an awesome group. We got Miss Tara, who was last year's Bass Camp champion of the world. And we got a good doctor on the way. He comes every week, but he had a patient late, so he's on the way. So we're going to have fun tonight. We also have a couple of surprises tonight, a couple of more surprises. We're going to have the first presentation ever by a junior pro staff. Don't let that scare you, because this young man is very smart. He goes by, his name is Miko, but he goes by the name That Kid Miko. And he's a social media guru. And he is a Phoenix, Arizona angler who is really knowledgeable about swim baits. So we're going to get some Western U.S. intel tonight on big swim baits. And we're honored to have him. We're also tonight, as we promised last time, we're going to talk about electronics. And Michael's going to make the presentation. Michael's done a lot of homework and made a bunch of copies of things. He's been on a computer all day today, and I think he's got some copies he's going to show you, maybe even give you. And that's just getting electronics education started here in this seminar, these seminars. And then, as y'all know, I've told you before, Slade Dougherty is going to start coming as soon as he gets his schedule freed up. And everybody knows Slade around here is really knowledgeable. So we got some more surprises coming. I'm going to save those surprises for Billy so as not to steal his thunder. But we're really happy you're here. And those of you who don't know, we encourage you to stop us with questions as soon as you have them. And I guarantee you, these guys can answer them. If they can't, then I'm going to ask the Bassmaster Camp guy to answer them. Okay? Thank y'all again very much. Terry, we can get you in a chair, hon. Because you're not going to be able to see. Come on, get up here in one of these chairs, sweetheart. You're going to be okay. Yeah, big chair's open. And then, okay. Thank y'all very much for coming in. Have fun tonight, okay? Here's Billy. We got Billy Lawson, if you those of you who don't know. We got Nico back there who's coming. And we got Michael McFarland. So, and Justin's, I think, out of town tonight, but we got a good group and have fun with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ronnie.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you, sir. Hey, guys, it is great to see some familiar faces. I really appreciate all you guys have been here each and every week. But boy, I tell you what, it is exciting to see the new faces. It's outstanding. I really appreciate you guys. Some of you coming in from way out of state and following on the YouTube channel and then finding this deal. You know, that's what it's all about, growing this fishing community, helping each other catch more fish. So thanks for that. I'm going to be really, really quick tonight because I want to let these two guys do their thing because I know Mike's got some incredible stuff to talk to you about. And Nico, there's no telling what he's going to talk to you about because some of the stuff I'm unfamiliar with. So I'm going to learn from this young man. So I'm excited to hear what he's got to say. So, a couple things real quick, just for me fishing-wise, just to give you guys kind of a quick update. You know, for me, it's kind of tough. There's some guys hitting home runs offshore. I'm not one of them. That's just the honest truth. That's what you get with me. But, I will say this. A bait they sell in this store, Lake Fork Tackle Zigzag, has been saving my day a lot of times. Rigging it weightless and wacky, a weightless Texas rig, and a wacky style with a half a nail weight like we do the trick worms too. But the Zigzags are out here on the shelf. So if you're like me, been struggling in this heat to catch fish, be sure and check out those weightless LFT Zigzags. Pick some up. I know we got plenty in stock. I made sure that before I talked about this. So I appreciate that. Also, one other thing, if you guys follow the Your Lake Fork Guide YouTube channel, if you don't, please do. And if you do, we've got a new bait coming out. That is the craziest cat. We've got a new bait coming out probably 2 to 3 weeks from now. And it's just a new bait. I don't want to give too much away because it's not ready to sell yet. But if you want a sneak peek at it, be sure and watch the videos this week. I believe Wednesday's video will have the first fish that's ever been caught on camera on this brand new bait. So I threw it for 30 minutes. I got 3 bites. I caught 1 really good fish. So be sure you're watching that deal on Wednesday. Excited about that one. Give you a little sneak peek at something we'll have coming up in the near future. Now it's time for me to bring up Nico. Nico is a young man, as Ronnie said, from Arizona. He's fished national championships, junior world championships. Like he said, he's a big social media guy. So follow That Kid Nico. You can find him on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Snapchat, all under That Kid Nico. Check him out. Here he comes. Make him feel at home here in Texas.
Well, so first off, thank you guys. I'm Nico. I'm from Arizona. One thing we do out on the West Coast a lot of times is we throw a lot of big swim baits. And first off, there's 4 really big categories of swim baits. There's multi-jointed baits, glide baits, soft baits, and wake baits. So first off, for soft baits, we'll start off with something smaller like a 6-inch Rego BV 3D swim bait. It's a line through. You feed it through the nose, it comes out the belly, you hook it in between these 2 back fins right here. This is a slower reeling swim bait.
Put him on the spot.
So, you can rig these on the bottom, or if you want to kind of let them sink a little ways and fish them shallower, you can actually find a needle pin with a little hole in the top of it. You can rig it through the bottom and then actually push the pin through the top of this soft plastic bait and rig it either behind the fin so it has a weed guard to it, or you can rig it in the front to get a better hook set when they come up on the top. So that's the first off. Most big fish rather eat a swim bait head first instead of coming up behind the tail. Number 1, their spine's on their back. But number 2, if a fish head strikes it from the front, the only way that fish can swim is further into its mouth. It hits it in the tail. If his mouth kind of opens even a little bit, that bait fish or whatever it's trying to eat can actually swim out and escape. So, and usually big fish, when they want to try and come and eat these, they're going to be devoted to eating them once they start. So there's a smaller one, and then we have something a little bigger, which is the 10-inch mag draft. This actually comes with a hook in it. I actually cut the harness out. It comes with a big feather hook, and the eye comes out the top of the nose. I actually got a little scalpel knife, and I cut through where that harness is, and I pulled it through the body. So one thing that's going to allow me to do is get a 12-aught weighted beast hook by owner, and I can actually let this thing sink to the bottom and bottom crawl it like a Huddleston, which is a cold winter swim bait. I don't have any with me, unfortunately. I left them at home. But it allows you to let that bait sink a lot faster and a lot slower than you would if you had to fish it as a slow bait. Because this bait, on average, without the weighted little swim bait hook to it, would only fall about a foot every 3 seconds, which this allows you to fish any depth of water column at any speed. So it helps me out a ton. As you can see, it's pretty ripped up. I've used this one quite a bit. This does allow you to get a lot bigger bites when you can fish it a lot slower. That's one thing I've learned about soft baits over my years fishing swim baits, is it actually helps a ton when you can get a big soft bait like this that rolls and it has a wide kick. It makes a lot of water disturbance, and you can get a lot more bites than if you had to reel at a certain speed on the top of the surface. So there's something like a big soft swim bait. And then when you go into your glide baits, this is a not so cheap bait system. So you got your S-Wave, or your Savage Gears, I'm sorry. S-Waver by River to Seas are very good too. This is a little smaller S-Waver. It's a little glide bait. It cuts back and forth when you twitch it. Something like this, I like to have a slow, steady twitch, like a twitch, and let it cut all the way out and kind of pause in between. And that's one way I like to throw my glide baits, and that's how they go and eat them the most. For me, is when you have that slow, steady twitch. They do eat them when you just slow roll them and they're kind of just coasting like that, but most of your bigger bites are going to come when it's kind of doing that little wide action. And personally, I do not like to 180 glide baits to make them react. Personally, I think it makes them shy away from the glide bait because you're not going to have a little shad or a bluegill turn around into a big old bass's face and say, "You're not going to eat me." It's not going to happen. They're going to kind of be shying away, so if you have something that's kind of twitching faster, or if you have clear water like we do, which I know not a lot of Texas lakes have a ton of clear water, this bigger glide is going to help you cover more water a lot faster than if you were trying to just slow roll it. This bait does cut out about, hi Katie, about 2 or 3 feet. And for a little bait like this, that's pretty good. So that's one thing that helps me out. And this bait right here is a Depths 175. This retails brand new for about $110. And if you want something that's cheap, affordable, and catches some good quality fish too, this is a little S-Waver. They come in tons of sizes, 10 inch, 8 inch, 5 inch, and I believe this is the 5. And this is only like $17 or $18. So there's a big price difference, same size. So it helps out a ton when you have something that's a little bit cheaper instead of having to go and break the bank with something like this. So that's another good thing. And then for all the people who want to go out and chuck the really big baits, there's something like the 262T. Now, this bait is made by the same company as this one, which is a Mega Bass. So you got that Mega Bass eye slide. Now, for this, it comes with the tail separate from the actual body in the box. So this tail in a box wouldn't get bent or melt or anything like that. It comes in its own little separate compartment. You just lick it or dip it in the lake, and then when you push this tail in, make sure that pointed side's up like that. And this glide bait is 10 1/3 inches long. This bait does come with trebles, but not on the bait. It comes separate within the box. This glide bait comes with a 4/0 in the front and a 3/0 in the back. So these are some big trebles. The knots I like to tie with this swim bait is a improved clinch knot or a double uni knot. I don't like using the polymer for this. I personally like using wrap knots for baits over 4 ounces, being the reason that a polymer will eventually stretch out over time, and the 2 wraps that go through the guide on a polymer do eventually stretch out and loosen. Those wrap knots, if it does loosen a little bit, that tag end is going to just come in a little bit closer. It's not going to uncinch the knot or anything. So I personally like using cinch knots or wrap knots for this. I do sometimes use a snap swivel and a little barrel swivel to improve the action. It just depends. If you have a barrel swivel to a snap on the nose, that bait is going to be a lot more free and it's going to run a lot wider than if you were to just tie it directly to it. So there's a time and a place where you want to snap and a time and a place where you don't. This bait actually, when you glide it, it cuts downwards, and so you get that wide glide on both sides and you get up and down too. And one thing I like to do is when you do see a follower from way out behind your bait, or you see one, and it's kind of slowly dragging, give it a little hard twitch or two real fast. And then once it gets about 2 foot from your rod tip, I'm using, or 2 rod lengths from your rod tip, which for me, I'm throwing this on a 8-foot rod, extra heavy. It holds 3 to 8 ounces. It's made by Taipan Rods in Arizona. Once it gets about 16 feet from the boat, I like to do one little sweep with the rod, and I kind of just let it fall right there if you have a slow sinking bait. This depends on the water temperature at the rate it sinks at. So if you have something like that depth 175 I was telling you about, I would do a little sweep with the rod tip. It actually cuts that bait a lot faster and a lot tighter. And those big fish usually come up behind it, and that's when they eat it. Or you could have a deeper follower that's down there a ways that you can't even see. And I personally had an experience where I did that, and I had one that was about 9 come up from under my swim bait that I would have never even seen if I didn't do that little pull set. So make sure you do that, and that's going to help you greatly when you get followers to the boat that you don't even realize. Another thing to do is when you do have them come up to the boat, try, and if they come up to the boat, get down a little ways, stay back on the other side of your deck or kneel down. And if they're still following it, don't touch the trolling motor, don't do anything. If they follow it, try and get this thing as close to the boat as you can without unimproving the action of it. Because what that's going to do is if you have a follower, a big bass that's chasing one of these is going to want a pinning point. So if you throw it parallel to a wall, it has one less place it can go. If it's in the middle of the water column, it can go up, down, left, right, wherever it wants to. If you have something that's on the surface like a wake bait, it's going to push upwards like a topwater. If you have something that's a slow sink, try and make little pinpoint casts. Say, okay, there's a rock right over there. I see it in about 4 or 5 foot of water. Make a cast to the left, make a cast to the right, make a cast over the top. Usually they'll come over the left or right, but I have had instances where I've had 6s and 7s come out over the top of the rock and you see their shadow and you have enough time to make them react if they're far enough out to get one to eat. So you can do that. Another thing is if you let this bait sink to the bottom, make sure that if you're working it back up from the surface, make sure you're working at a steady pace, a steady glide, and then once you get that follower, or you see a follower, you think you have a follower, you let it kind of either kill it and just let it sink a little bit, or give it 1 hard or 2 hard pops so it just cuts really hard. And make this thing, make it look alive. Make it, expect like you're going to get a bite every cast, because there's always going to be the instance or two, especially with glide bait or soft bait or something like that, where you only get 1 or 2 bites in a day if you're lucky on this. But the ones you get are usually very, very big. I do have a buddy in Arizona, Manny Chi. I don't know if any of you know him or not. He throws swim baits quite a bit. That's all he does, actually. But he's caught many, many, many big fish on this swim bait in lakes that you would not expect him to be in. So it takes a little experimenting with you, and some of your lakes are pretty muddy. Like when Fort gets a little muddier, I would tend to stay away from glide baits. I would pick up something that's more of a soft body, something that makes a lot of water disturbance, kicks really wide and loud, and I would do something like that, unlike something like this, because if you have something like that, you're going to be able to cover more water quicker because you can reel that at any certain speed, and you have a lot more water disturbance pushing than this just splicing through the water. So that's another thing. Another thing that's very important with your rods is that you use a rod that curls. Starts at the top guide, goes down a little bit, and it curls under the rod. So what I mean by that is your first guide might be up at the top of the rod like normal, your second guide might be a little cockeyed, and the third might even be more, and then the rest are on the bottom of the rod from the top of the reel. See, The reason being for that is that you can actually get more usage out of your line before it gets coiled up. Because using a heavy bait like this, it gets a lot of friction, it gets tossed around. These baits tend to helicopter a little bit, so that's another thing. And the last thing is line. I intend to use baits that are 3 pounds or 3 ounces or lighter. I use about 20-pound test. 20 is usually my go-to for like a depths 175 or something. With something like this, I'll bump it up to about 30 pound. And another important thing is you either use copoly line, which is copolymer. It sinks like fluorocarbon, but it has this stretch of mono, and then monofilament. It's going to allow you to be able to set the hook, not rip these baits out, the trebles out of this bait, and you're going to be able to land a lot more fish by doing that. I tend to usually stay away from braid, being that if it does kind of whiplash or whatever, you're not going to throw off your bait if it stops in the middle of a cast. Because braid does have that cinch where it will uncinch itself and pull through. So I tend to stay away from braid. So mono and copoly, be careful with these baits, they do have big trebles.
What size rod?
Excuse me?
What size rod are you throwing on?
I'm throwing mine on, it depends on the swim bait. I throw my bigger glide baits, my 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 inch or ounce glide baits. I do throw on a Taipan extra heavy 8-foot rod with 30-pound mono or copoly. It just depends on what I expect to go out and throw. And then on my other rod, I'll use Taipan's lighter swim bait series rod. It's their junior swim bait rod. I believe it holds 1 ounce to 3 ounces. And I will have that usually spooled up with 17 to 20 pounds. So it just depends on what you're going to go out and throw. If you say you're going to go out and throw one of these, commit yourself. You're not going to get a lot of bites, but if you do, you're going to have a lot of fun doing it, and it's usually going to be a big fish. So is there any questions about glide baits or how you'd work them or what lakes you'd want to target them at or what I would structure target?
What did that one cost?
This bait retails for $94.95. So plus tax. So this is about $100 swim bait, which honestly for swim baits is pretty cheap or about average. There are swim baits of upwards of $500. So this is pretty expensive for the average fisherman who's not wanting to go out and spend a lot of money, but it's definitely well worth it if you're going to target bigger fish like this, and make sure you have the right setup to do it so you don't lose any baits like this or lose any fish that could hurt your feelings at the end of the day. So is there any more questions?
What time of the year you like to throw that?
There is certain times of the year where I like to throw certain soft baits or glide baits over the other. Soft baits I prefer during, like, October is coming up here in a couple months. That's going to be good soft baits or multi-jointed baits. Glide baits are good summertime or like springtime. It depends on summertime if you're willing to go out and beat out the heat to go throw one of these, but they will come out after them. And then wintertime, I like to stay something that's really subtle, like a Huddleston Deluxe, which barely has any kick to it. You let it fall straight to the bottom, and I use a 5:1 gear ratio on those, and I just crawl about that slow. It's painfully slow. It takes you about 3-4 minutes to get a long cast in on one, but you definitely get bit doing it. So there's that too. Is there any more questions? Or what color types I would throw during certain times or anything?
You fished fork with the swim baits this
I personally did not. I did off the bank, but I was too afraid to break one off. Because fork's a little bit of a treble hook cemetery, I'm sure. So I kind of stayed away from them at fork. I brought them just in case. I heard they were eating glide baits, and then I thought about it, and I was like, I don't want to. I'm a little scared. So, but in Arizona, I would throw these because I throw a lot of swim baits off of bluff walls and deeper water. So, you got the deeper water with the shelves and stuff. You can find those. That's really good. Good flats during the spawn. The spawn is another really good time to go out and throw these. So, yes, sir.
Do you throw those on like ledges and stuff?
Personally, I don't have ledges at home. I'm sure it would work if you get like a Huddleston Deluxe and an ROF 12, which is rate of fall 12, which is 12 feet every 10 seconds. They have ROF 0s, ROF 5s, ROF 12s, and ROF 16s, which those are all rate of fall in the foot per 10 seconds. So if you have an ROF 5, it's going to fall 5 foot every 10, and so on. So is there any other questions? All right, thank you.
Miko. Boy, you know a lot for a 15-year-old. My goodness. Hey, I'll tell you what, I am scared for my job security 10 years from now. Because if there's a bunch of high school kids running around like that, holy jeez. My goodness. Well, we've got something that's been anticipated for a while coming up. I talked about him at pretty good length, really, about it in here this afternoon. He kind of gave me the Cliff Notes version, and I'm pretty excited about it for y'all. This is going to be maybe the most informative seminar that we've had. This is going to be something that's going to help everybody. The hottest topic in the world right now, how do I know what I'm looking at on my electronics? And we've got an absolute expert, long-time, full-time professional, Mike McFarland. Get after him, buddy. Y'all check him out at McFarlandFishing.com. He's fixing to give you the knowledge.
Thank you, Billy.
Yes, sir.
Man, the first thing before I can even go anywhere, I got to catch my breath. Do you guys realize that you just got delivered a seminar from a 16-year-old man?
Oh, I said 15. That's my bad, Nico. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Oh, he is 15.
Okay.
He's 15 years old. Okay, I'm going to tell you something. Today is an information society. These kids can get the information that some of us has earned over 30, 35 years, they can get in just a few years. It's a matter of putting, just like anything, hard work. Put your head and pencil to the paper. Get behind and watch YouTube like this young man has. He has done his homework. Come here, Nico. I am so happy for you, and I am so proud for you because the seminar that you just delivered was right on point. Detailed, pretty much stuff that I'm shocked. I would not have expected that you've not had enough time in your fishing career to know the things that you just shared. They were right on the money. You've done your homework, young man. Congratulations. We miss you. Get back to Arizona and tell everybody we said hey.
All right.
That ain't wow. Wow, wow, wow. That means you can do that. You can do that. That means you can do that. You can do that. You can still do that. It's not too late. Okay? All right, guys, you ready for this one? It's going to get interesting, and you'll have to bear with me a little bit because this is probably one of the least done topics because it's one of the most difficult. It's really difficult to convey or illustrate and get you guys to understand. Some of it's very simple and basic, and some of it's not. It takes almost hands-on, time on. I think that I'm at a point where we will give it a shot. Okay, let me back up. Let me tell you just a little bit about me. I came from old school. I was fishing when I was 3 years old. I dropped out of high school when I was 14. Don't you dare. Finish. Please, I'm begging you. But my point of sharing that is that's really all I know. I have had a few different things. I did some construction and some music in my career. But as far as this stuff goes, this is not the first time that I've actually done seminars about sonars. They continually change through the years. This is a sonar from over 10 years ago. I made this 10 years ago. And I actually did some notes on it and things. Very brief back then compared to what I'm hoping to accomplish out of this particular deal. So I'm asking you all, this is one of probably at least 4 that's going to take me to get everything that I want shared. Okay, so you have to bear with me. You should have some pictures or papers or something so you can retain some of this too, because there's a lot of information. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a chalkboard and I'm going to talk about fish. It's pretty obvious that when we go out there, the first thing we want to use our sonar for is to find fish. So the first question would be is, what do the fish look like? Okay. When you go in a place like Fork, it's loaded with fish. There's fish everywhere. So the first thing is, anybody have any idea what does a fish look like on a sonar? What's it supposed to look like?
A fish?
a fish? You mean it's supposed to have a smiley face and a dot and a
No.
tail? What does it look like?
Just like looks like a blob kind
A
of.
blob or a boomerang
Yes.
or an arch, okay? Or anybody? Caterpillar? Okay, you're right. Now, in the old school days, we had grayscale sonars, which meant black and white. That was it. Black, gray, and white. So it was very difficult to tell detailed about specific species of fish. It was very difficult in some cases to be able to tell sizes. What showed the sizes in the grayscale, now when I flip this around, there's a couple things I want you to keep in mind. I'm showing you color scale, not grayscale. I'm showing you that there are 3 colors in today's sonars. This first seminar tonight will not cover very little information about downscan, side scan. We're going to start with the basic, the sonar first. I do have some images of side scan that I want to show you. So in the old days, it was a grayscale. It didn't have the color, but it still had the same arch. So the first thing I want to talk about is fish comes up as an arch. Okay. Don't worry about the colors. I want you to look here, here and only here. These are very small arches, and they're only blue. Okay. Forget the colors. Remember, stay with me. No colors. These are. I said colors. It's my bad. So these are very small arches. These are a little bigger, and these are much bigger. In a grayscale, this would just be a little black line. This would be a black line with a little bit of gray, and this would be the black line with a heart of gray. Okay? But the difference is the size of my pinky or my thumb in the actual size of the arch itself. Okay. So keeping that in mind, I'm going to send this around. First picture around. This is grayscale. And I want you to just take a look at, and I've labeled it, big fish, small fish, bait fish. You'll see the hooks that I'm talking about. This first illustration as it goes around is fish. The second is bait with some fish intermixed. And please read the little notes, because this is going to help me get across what I want to get across. As that goes around, so it's pretty obvious that this little hash mark, or boomerang, small boomerang, medium boomerang, big boomerang, and forgive my drawings. They're obviously different sizes, right? What do you think this is on the graph? If that's a fish, that's registering fish, what is that?
A small fish.
Right, and a little bit bigger, and a little bit bigger, okay? So, as that kind of goes around, I want you to think about something now. That's grayscale. We've come a long ways. We now have a new color sonars. As of about 2006, we came out with color. There's 3 main colors in that sonar. Blue, red, and yellow. In this demonstration, I don't have a yellow Sharpie, so I had to use green. The green is yellow, okay? Please bear with that, and I apologize. We're going to start with, now I'm talking about colors. Start at the top with bait. If I have pixel dots and they're just blue, it's a circle. What did I say that was?
Small fish. Bait. Small fish. Bait.
Small fish, small bait.
Bait.
Ma,
Medium fish, medium bait. Okay?
don't forget about these.
I won't. Small fish, small bait. Don't worry about this one above, this row here. A little bigger fish, a little bigger bait. Real big fish, real big bait. These 3 balls right there look the same that I've drawn. My drawing's not the best. Remember, the green in here is supposed to be yellow. So I have blue and only blue. Do you see it? I have blue with a little bit of pink, and I have blue with pink and yellow inside it. It's the same size ball of bait on the sonar. Small bait, medium bait, bigger bait. It was the color that's inside it that tells me what that size of that bait is. Now I'm going to pass some of these around, which are going to end up showing you that as this comes down the line. Okay? So if in fact I've got a cloud of bait and it's just the pixel dots, and I said that's pretty small bait. What about if I have a cloud of bait and it has, this is yellow, remember? It's supposed to be yellow. I have a cloud of bait and it's solid yellow inside. Blue is soft, red is semi-soft, and yellow is hard. If there was no yellow in a hard fish, in a small fish, and there's no yellow in a medium fish, but remember this is yellow. Okay, the green that I have in this illustration should be a yellow arch, the best it could. And you'll see in my actual printouts they are yellow. This is a small fish and this is a big fish. This is small bait and this is bigger bait. If this was the dots but more yellow, remember stay here, no yellow, little bit of red, adding yellow, lots of yellow, what kind of bait would that be?
really big bait.
Yeah, why?
Because it has a lot more yellow.
And the yellow is hard, which means that the objects are starting to get bigger, thicker, they're having some bone inside of them. So typically when you're looking at your bait, the colors also help you decide what kind of bait you're on. For example, threadfin shad and gizzard shad don't have any hard bones. So when you see a cloud of bait go by on your graph and you say, Dad, there goes a cloud of bait, and you look at it and it has yellow in it, it's not threadfin and it's not gizzard, because they don't come with anything hard enough in their body to show you any yellow. Your sonar might be set wrong. This is based, by the way, on 68 to 72% color line. If you have your color line jacked up to 90, you're going to see yellow in these tiny little fish. So the setting has to be proper. So breaking this color down now, what I'm going to do, does that make sense to everybody? It's the color that I'm looking for. I saw this bait, and I said, well, that's probably some 1 or 2 inch shad. I saw this bait, I said, well, that's some good 3 to 5 inch shad. I saw this with the yellow in it, and I went, man, that might actually be a school of baby bass, or baby crappie, or baby white bass, or baby yellow bass. It had yellow in it. Yellow's hard. Yellow suggests bone in a fish. Turn this around now. We're going to talk more about those colors. Yellow also determines bottom content. These colors aren't just for finding fish. These colors are to determine a soft bottom or a hard bottom. Okay? This illustration is really cool because what this really should say is softer, harder, because there's nothing soft about that bottom. Do you see all the yellow? If I remove that yellow and you're unable to see that yellow, this surface yellow right here, and you had just red, then I call it a soft bottom. What tells me that there's nothing soft about this is the amount of yellow at the top. Do you see that? We're going to pass this around. Another thing that's not talked about in here is there's a double echo. You have your first echo and a double echo. That also tells me that it's a really hard bottom. It has 2 echoes. So it either has clam beds, zebra beds, it's got some kind of mussels, hard rock, something in there to make a double echo. It's the only thing that makes a double echo. So in realistic, this should say softer than this. This is still a hard bottom. But you can see the 2 color differences of the reds and the yellows. Pass that around. Okay, so now I'm going to throw you the fish. As I tried to draw. I'm not the best drawer, I didn't have a yellow marker. But this illustration is very clear for all of you. What a small fish looks like, and exactly as I drew it, just blue. A little bit bigger fish in amongst that have blue and a little bit of red heart. And then the big girls that have the blue, the red, and the yellow. So please take, this is your most important piece right here. If you want to know what fish look like on a graph, if you want to know what big bass, 5-pound plus bass look like, there they are on the bottom of that picture. And those are 4 and 5-pound bass. I'm going to give you guys just a minute to pass that around. Everybody needs to see that before I go to the next part. We can do some asking questions. Well, if you want to go all the way back to Phoenix, Arizona, that one's probably some. Actually, Kevin printed that for me today, so we don't know where it's at. Kevin actually printed that one, and that's just excellent. That's an excellent illustration right there to determine. And before, right, since that's going around, as that's going around, keep that in mind. That first sheet is a good fish. In an FLW event, I'll be catching 3, 4, 5 pounders. Come on in. Come on in. No worries.
So is it better to set it at a lower setting? You said 68 to 72.
That should be where your color line is. The
So-
color line itself.
So 70? Or are you going to
70's fine. A lot of times if you go deeper or shallower, as you familiarize yourself, this really starts to get familiar with you. For example, this picture that I did have here, I might have sent it out, that I said it should have said softer, harder. In my opinion, they're a little high on the setting with that. It's hot. It's a little hot. Here's another prime. My next one's another example. It's prime. It's hot. So maybe if you're getting really comfortable. There's times when I'm out there and I go, I'm going to bump it down a little. And I'll even go 60 forward. Maybe I'm real shallow. And the bottom happens to be super hard. I'm graphing a road bed. So I know I'm already getting a heck of an echo anyways. I know I'm expecting it to be hard. There is some tweaking. And that goes further down the deep. That's why I said this could be a 6-month type thing that you could have a basic study on, and then you guys could question and answers. So those are good fish. Small fish, 4 and 5 pounders, okay? Lake Fork studs. If you see Mark Pat in his truck, that's the exact arches that he has. And that's what they should look like. When you find the big 8, 9, 10 pound bass on Lake Fork, that's what they should look like. Okay, anybody that's listening to me should be able to tell me, is it a hard bottom or a soft bottom? You weren't listening, but is it a hard bottom or a soft bottom, young man?
Hard.
Where do you see that?
Oh, no, soft.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm getting somewhere. I love it. Those are the big ones right there. That's what they should look like. Okay? We're going to start to pass this around, but as I do, I want you to keep something in mind. I'm leading into my next one. The only time that you're going to get arches, like you see on that illustration and like you see on this illustration, is when the fish itself is not moving. The sonar has to send the signal down. It has to hit. It has to wrap the object, unfold, hit the bottom, and come back, wrap the object, come back to you. If that fish is moving at all, this begins to change. Uniquely, the color does not. Okay? So in this next illustration, it's fish that are beginning to move. They're moving around. Okay? It's the same arches. This little group right here is all those arches that you saw in that first. They grouped up and they're moving together. So when you're not getting the physical arches, fish are moving. Moving fish. These are moving fish. These are really moving fish. Chasing bait. There are even lines through it. I'm talking colors here. Anybody paying attention? Good fish, small fish, medium fish? What are they? Somebody? What are they?
Medium fish.
Medium fish. And it's a hard bottom, soft bottom?
Hard bottom.
Super hard bottom, huh? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're doing good. So, when a fish does not move, you want the big Lake Fork studs? That's what they look like right there. That's what you're looking for. Those are 10-pound plus fish. And there's a school of them. Uniquely, most of the time you won't recognize something, but if you count those, there's probably about 8 to 10 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Most of the time when you get into double-digit fish, 10-pounders, exception of fork, because I've seen as many as 50 in one school. But most of the time there's about 10 to 15 of them. So uniquely enough, them big fish, that's about what you're going to see when you're on the really, really next caliber of big fish. 6 to 10 pounders were school 50, 100 or so. Once they start being that big, 13, 14, 15 pounds, they begin to actually start to rogue, separate. They still have to school together and work together when that time of year comes. But, so, non-moving fish, absolutely streaking and chasing. Look at the bait that's spread out. Okay, another question on that. That bait, is it small bait, medium bait, or big bait? You, sir. The bait right here.
Medium,
Why?
the color,
Blue and?
red.
Yes, sir. I think we got somewhere. Is everybody getting this pretty good? I feel like it. Awesome. Man, this is cool. That's what I was really worried about, how difficult this was going to be to deliver. Now, let's go into the next thing then. By the way, I want to see, before I do this, where's the one with all this fish on the bottom, the group of, not the, that's it, that's it. Okay, so, if everybody turn around and just look at all the small fish on the bottom, well, they're pretty good sized fish. They're 4 or 5 pounders. You see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, there's probably 15, 18 fish on the bottom. They're not moving, you see the full hooks. If those fish decided to group up and take off together as a school, that's what they would become. That's what a school moving. That's moving pretty quick. This is actually school stripers, but they're moving pretty quick. The 2-pound stripers. So anytime they move, they're going to get, when they really get together, that's what you're going to see. It becomes caterpillars. Okay? So we've clarified the fish. Now we're going to get you just a little bit farther, and then we're going to do some questions and answers. Over the next 3 to 4 seminars, I intend on taking you from the basics. This is the basics. We don't hardly use that much anymore. We have down scan, side scan, which takes us into a whole different deal. It actually shows the true image. My point of bringing this up is this here is old school sonars and the new down scan imaging. Okay? You cannot tell in the old days what that was. When I was a young kid and that come up, I had to be told by Don Iovino those trees, son. When I look over here on a down scan today, I can see every single limb and appendage. And I can even see the fish details inside the down scan that uniquely enough, if you look at this closely, there are 4 big dots, which now the down scan does dots. There are 4 big dots, 1, 2, 3, 4, in that tree. On the same, there is 1, 2, 3, 4 hooks, boomerangs with yellow in that tree. So this sonar, old school, didn't miss it, but it was hard to see it. You had to understand that you were looking for those yellow boomerangs inside that tree. Okay? So pretty unique. I'll pass this around. I want to plant a seed. I want to see more of you here. I know some of you can't be. But as we break into this down scan, side scan stuff, it's almost equivalent to a lady's deal. I mean, it is the real deal. I mean, you can tell, boy or girl. You know, you can tell limbs to the left or the right. You can see a little 2-pound bass sitting in a tree. You can ask a young man or young lady, 5 years old, what is that? And they're going to say, a tree, Daddy. Or I've had clients who've been on some lakes like Saguaro Lake in Arizona where I've seen something and I laugh and tell, hey, tell me what that is on my unit. And they go, oh no, I'm embarrassed. What do you mean you're embarrassed? It's a shopping cart. Yes ma'am, it's a shopping cart. It came up just like a shopping cart, a boat, an engine. So the next wave, the next seminars, are going to be probably difficult, but I think I can do it. I got through that part, so I'm pretty sure we're going to get it. It changes things. It's not color any longer. It's dots. It's pixels. It's dots. It's true images. It's how you use it. It's side scanning. It's pretty detailed as well. Okay, everybody get that? Is there any questions so far about that? Kitty, are there no questions because we're that comfortable?
Hey, if you're in 15 to 10 foot of water,
Yes, sir.
and you go over it, you idle over the top of them, are you gonna spook the fish?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. I've been in a scenario where, honestly, I hate the name, but I was on the lake with a particular guy in 2010, learning about the lake. I'm not going to say names, but we were 4 feet of water, power pulled down. And I looked down on his sonar, the trolling motor, and I went, that's a fish. And he said, yeah, son, about 2 pounds. I said, yeah, I know graphs, that's it. You're telling me there's a 2-pound bass sitting underneath the trolling motor? He said, yeah, and he gripped over, picked the drop shot, and went, and caught it. Is that normal? No. Good question, Kevin. On the West Coast, we do a lot of vertical drop shotting, and my theory is about 25 feet. 20, 25 feet, 18 feet, if I'm on top of them, boy, I can start to have a little bit too closeness. We don't have clarity water here, so
That's why I just finished asking.
because the clarity's not there, I don't have as
This
much.
guy's talking about going over with a big motor though.
Yes and no. These days on a lake like this, yeah. That's where when you listen to some of these side scan seminars that I'm going to get to. It's funny that I just said that, it popped in my head. When side scan first came out, Brett Height's one of my real good friends, and Brett Height told me, it's really cool, and it shows you some image, but man, it can really mess you up. And the first several years that's what it was doing. And now it's almost becoming to where that's almost all we're using. They got it better, they got better images, they have 3D images. And we're starting to be able to use this pan optics. We're starting to shoot out. And now, really answering his question, we're finding the fish more stealthily without having to go over the top of them. We're able to find them from a distance. And on a lake like Lake Fork that's highly pressured, finding those fish from a distance is just like seeing deer with binoculars. You have not gone all the way into those deer that were spooky. Non-spooky deer, you might be able to get in closer. These fish, yes. So great question, Kevin. Water clarity has most to do with it, but if you do feel that you have spooked them, you probably did. And I can tell you with your bait fish, you will spook the bait. One of the biggest mistakes that happens today on these lakes when you're offshore fishing and schooling fish is you put the boat where the bait wants to be or where the bait is working through. So if you have a chute leading to a canal base or a bridge pylon and the bait is being functioned like cattle out and back in through that chute, if you put the boat, you've called what they call split the shad. You've messed it up. And they don't have that circular, you're in the way. You're in the way of this funneling circulation that happens. That can happen a lot on a lake like this. There'd be a small ditch and you power pull at the mouth of the ditch. Well, the bass needed the ditch to herd. And every 20 minutes you're going to have a blow up when they're herding. but you blocked it. So all of a sudden you say, what happened, Dad? They were blowing up when we on our way in here, and we blocked it. You didn't know it. Okay, so I'm gonna. There's no questions about that and stuff.
Okay, what about factory settings versus manual? Are you gonna tell us what to do to make the image much better?
Okay, so some of your basic settings for the time being. Your color line needs to be set between 68 and 72%. That's where I want your color line. If you have some of the newer units, okay, I suggest that you go ahead and run them on auto sensitivity. The reason that I run auto sensitivity is it gets a good enough image to where I may not be able to see that particular fish that is in the trees like here. But when I get in a scenario like this, if I want to see those, I tweak it up a little bit. So say that I'm graphing, say I don't have downscan, and I graph and I see two trees like this, I tweak that sensitivity up so that I can see the boomerangs that are in the trees, or not. Now that we have downscan, I don't find myself doing that much because I see it here. Sometimes I'll like confirmation for size. Remember we talked about, I can tell you how big they are. That's a 2-pounder, that's a 5-pounder, that's a 10-pounder. So maybe I do see some trees, and I've got some faint dots in amongst it. I'm not sure if they're big ones or not. So I may go back over with my sonar, turn just to sonar, forget the downscan anymore, play with the colors so I can find out are there any big ones in that dense tree. A lot of times I will tweak with my bottom up and down to see the content of that bottom. So there is some functionings of tweaking it. I don't want you to worry about that. 6872 basic color line, auto sensitivity, and you'll be fine. Here's where probably the biggest mistake happens. There are two things on our units that are misused, and I wish they wouldn't even put them in. And they are noise rejection, which some cases must be used. If you just happen to have a noisy, rattly old engine, if the trolling motor transducer, if this transducer is put in the right place, the big engine should not create interference. So you should need noise rejection. The trolling motor, sometimes you have something shorting, you have something going wrong. Electrolysis, you have something going wrong if you're needing noise rejection. All that does is remove some of this good setting. So you went in, you got it set right, and then you hampered it out. You pulled things out. Noise rejection may or may not be used. Here's the one I do not want you to ever use. And it bothers me that when guys set people up doing this. Surface. Go out time the next time you're on a body of water, scoop the water in your hand, and tell me that that surface water ain't clear. It may not look clear, but the first 6-8 inches is almost always pretty clear. Okay? Most of the time guys will put surface clarity on, medium, high. It should be off. And what actually happens is you start to get a whole lot of garble inside it. And that's why guys use it. They go, God, I just don't like all those dots and the garble. But remember, we talked colors. Okay? I'm a bass fisherman. I don't care about a tiny little blue arch. It's not even a 1-pound fish. So the garble needs to be there for you to get all that sonar is transmitting, and you need to learn to read through the garble. Right? The minute that you start using noise rejection and surface clarity, unless you're in the right scenario, which is pretty minor, pretty minimal, I don't run into a lot of scenarios that I do it, you're messing yourself up. You are no longer seeing things. And I'm going to make an image for next time to back this up. You can literally put on noise rejection on low, surface clarity on high, go down scan, see the image of the tree on the down scan, and the sonar will barely pick up the image. If the sonar is barely picking up the image, how is it going to show you any fish? Okay. So the noise rejection should be off unless it's major problematic. And here's where you'll see lines, big lines, not garble, not fill, not debris in the water, not water content. Garble sometimes can be good. There are lakes on the west coast that are dead. Lake Mead is dead water. And I actually am idling looking for garble first, because garble is life. It's bacteria content, it's plankton, it's phytoplankton, zooplankton, whatever. As soon as the graph starts to show me, I go, oh, maybe I got some algae bloom in here. I don't know what it is, but it's garbling. It means I got water content. I start to have some life, and it's not crystal clear. Okay? So, did that answer the question? Okay? Don't use some of those suppression things. Let's go another step farther. You guys have Michael McFarland. If your unit is messing up and you're thinking you need to use surface clarity, or you're thinking, man, I'm having a lot of feedback, I need to use my noise rejection, you need to dial Michael McFarland. We'll figure out why, because it's probably not the actual answer. There's probably something wrong. Probably have something happen. Hopping wires, there's a lot of stuff that goes on. Okay? Awesome. We're right on course here. Anybody have any more questions for the moment?
I do. Well, up on the trolling motor, your transducer is literally gonna be a couple feet underwater, not 6 inches underwater.
Yes, sir. Yes,
So
sir.
if you was looking to do the surface pressure there, you're knocking it out 2 feet underwater, not on the surface.
I love this guy. Only time right now I use my surface clarity is when I run up north and I'm in the wood and I take my trolling motor and I have to raise it all the way to the surface and I'm in muck or brown water. I look at my graph and you'll see it. You'll go, man, what's going on? I can't see. It's fuzzy. See anything. Use clarity. Get rid of that dirty water that it can't shoot through. You're only in 5 feet of dirty water. You're 5 feet of dirty water, you have to get rid of. That's all you have, the surface. You're at the surface. There's nothing more to it. Great question. So I don't want you to think, never ever use it, but I want to start with baby steps. There's always a scenario to use everything. Every lure in the box, there's a day and a place. So these units do a lot, even navigating, mapping, how do I run a boat lane. Have you ever seen a YouTube video, one of these crazy veterans running a roadbed? They lived here all their lives, they'll tell you, I coon hunt down in there, son. That's how I do it. You mean you don't have a mapping? I know this lake on the back of my hand. I used to coon hunt in here and I run that road and turn there at that oak tree and then left on that other oak tree and I buzz all the way back there. Huh? What? Without a map. That's old school, 1 in a million. With the mapping, we're going to have some classes on navigating. Billy just told me something about a place I didn't even run into. Now I know how. Once I do some homework, I can run in there too. I'm going to teach you how to do that homework. And these units aren't just for looking at the depth, for looking at the temperature, for finding fish. They're binoculars. They're your spotting scope that help you break down detail. When you're out here, you should be making waypoints. So when you come over trees here, you should be waypointing this stuff. Maybe breaking it down. These 2 trees are on the top of the hump. It's pretty ideal. So these sonars are much more than just a little piece of the puzzle. They're all of the puzzle. And that's how the major league guys can go somewhere that they've never ever been. I know you're watching this. And in a matter of one drive-by, they begin to start their process, which is a process of elimination. It's a process of breaking down and understanding, just like any hunter would, what are the animals doing today? Not yesterday, today. On that lieu of that, we're going to go right into Lake Fork. It is in a funk right now. The fish aren't messed up. The fish are fine. The fish are eating just fine. They're just not doing what we are used to them. They're not doing what they should be technically doing in the middle of summer. And here's why. It's going to be my last demonstration of sonar work. This is a thermocline. This is actually the beginning of a thermocline. Any biologist or scientist will tell you that a solidified thermocline tends to be no more than 18 inches deep, even in the ocean. So if in this illustration you begin to see the blue thermocline establishing, but there's 4 or 5 feet worth of junk below it, thermocline establishing with all the junk below it, that is not solidified yet. It's developing. Sometimes on Fork, right now, we're only seeing the junk. We're not even seeing the beginning of solidification. This is showing the beginnings of solidification. If this completely solidifies, you now have 2 separate water columns. That makes a temperature inversion. So when you swim, dive through it, if you were a scuba diver, you would go down there, be a cloud. It can be plankton in the ocean. It can simply be microorganisms. It's a temperature change. It can just be that the 2 different temperatures are clashing together and it's milky white. But that cloud right there separates 2 water columns and allows fish to go down deep into cooler water that has oxygen, and that's where they should be in the summer. When you don't have one, this all becomes one blended water column. And you have fish up in 2 feet, 5 feet, 8 feet, 10 feet. You got bait out in the middle, suspending in 5. You have bait all the way in the back of the pockets in grass because everything is the same. We have no thermocline in Lake Fork. This picture is even farther progressed than we got this year. But I want you to take a look at it. What this is below is bad water. No oxygen. Take a close look at this picture. Why are all the fish above, nothing below? Because there's no oxygen below. So when you see that on fork, fish above it, but not below it. However, there are a few guys that have gone way below it. Fork doesn't usually offer us that much water, but if you go to the next level, 38 feet, 50 feet, etc., there's a Lake Pleasant in Phoenix, Arizona that sets 2 thermoclines, one in the 22 to 30 range, paying each year, and one at 100. There's 2 thermoclines in that particular lake. It's a 220-foot lake. So thermoclines are very important in the winter and the summer. In the summertime, they'll be cooler below. In the wintertime, they'll be warmer. I can tell you just real quick, Fork doesn't really get a thermocline in the winter. Very rare. We usually get a very good thermocline in the summer, and we didn't this year. So.
It's rain.
Yeah, the rain, the light cool weather, the continual wind, and the rain broke it. Every time it starts, it would get broke again. We would have a flood, and all that content would sink through the water column and break what was building. But basically, that's the gist on Fork right now. You can catch some fish. It's still okay. You're grinding it out, but give it the month of August. It's the dog days. You know, if you're out there fishing right now, keep it short. If they're not biting, go back in. Split the day up. Fish the morning, fish the evening. Don't kill yourself. Don't be out there all day grinding it out right now, because you're probably not going to get what you're looking for.
For cleaning up the graph, what is the megahertz setting?
Good question. Okay, megahertz. Typically you're going to have 800 and 200. Okay, you have 455 and 800 on a down scan, side scan, and we're going to talk about that next on the next one. Perfect. That's a great one. I'm going to send this around, and you can see exactly what I was talking about. If you read that, take a close look. That's exactly what's happening right now on Fork. That's an excellent question. Now here's the deal: 800 hertz is for, and that's your down scan imaging or side scan. That's for deep water. 455 hertz is for shallow water. Typically, like on your sonars, you can have 53 hertz, 80 hertz, or 200 hertz. The 200 hertz is usually what I'm running most of the time on Fork. There's times I want to just widen that comb. That's really all it's doing, is widening or tightening that comb. If I go down to 80, I'm widening that cone out a little bit. But you'll notice that those hertz are generally for different depths. Rule of thumb for all Texas, east, northeast Texas. You guys, I haven't seen a lake yet, anything like what I experienced on the west coast. 455 hertz on your down scan, side scan, 200 hertz on your sonar, and you're fine. We can get into detail. I may end up offering some advanced classes where there may be a moment, maybe you want to be an elite angler, and for the moment you want to tweak and check something out. And you may look at all 3 in one day. You may look at a point with 200 hertz, 80 hertz, and 53 hertz, just because it breaks it down totally different. And I've got a tree that both Slade and I use that's fallen over a creek. Okay, it's a full oak tree. And I can tell you how many times we both go out to show it. And I can't tell you how many times that I will go over it even the same angle, it doesn't come up the same. And I have to keep hitting on it, and sometimes I'll make that pass, and boom, there it is. The whole tree, every bit of the definition. So sometimes making one pass isn't enough. I'm going to end you on this, and then Billy and I are going to answer questions, but I went to the Don Ivino class. If you were going to graph, you had a football field area. Do you think it would be more beneficial to grid it or figure 8 it? Watch. Here's a football field. Here's my boat. I'm gridding it. Those are all the items. Okay? I'm going to figure 8 it. I'm done. What makes more sense? To grid it or figure 8 it? Okay? I'm going to show you the last little cool lesson that Don Ivino taught me. Where'd my spray go? I had it set up to wipe this away.
Moved it. Kevin told me to get all that junk off the top of that cabinet.
I didn't know it was his.
You know it was his junk?
No.
It's tools of the trade, Kev. Come on.
There's still trying to process how I can fully pull this off. Amanda doing this on the floor. It's sonar.
You want me to hold something? You want me to hold
A sonar shoots a signal that's much like a flashlight. Okay? It's a cone. Those hertz that we talk about depend, and the depth that we're fishing or graphing, determine the size of that cone. So the top of the cone is my hands here, my fingers, that's coming out of the boat. When it hits the bottom, okay, it has a diameter. So at the bottom, like if I was to shine a flashlight down here, okay, I'm going to get a circle, right? Okay, so I got a circle. When the cone hits the bottom, it's a circle. If I take this deal here, and I make that circle go up here, and I try to perfectly go right next to the other one, right? That cone, that circle. Imagine if anybody have a flashlight? That would help me the best right here. It would be the best if I happen to have a flashlight. And imagine a flashlight dot, a circle, going up and back, up and back. You're going to have a lot of lanes missed, right? Okay? But when you figure 8, if I draw that figure 8, if you take a circle, remember there's a circle. If you were to, how can I do this? If I drew lines with a circle, I'm going to have missed spots. When I figure 8, if you take that flashlight, how can I get this portrayed? I know I can do this. I know I can do this. Here's my cone, okay? And I've gone up, and I U-turn, and I come back down, and I missed a 2-foot strip. I don't know if you'll see this. So watch the circle. Circle goes up. If I'm perfect, I come right down. I have to kind of overlap those circles. If I make a mistake, I just missed. I missed this, okay? Watch me miss it. I missed it, okay? When you figure 8, that cone overlaps itself. Do you see the overlapping? Perfect. Watch how fast. Watch. Here's 1, 2, 3, and I might have missed a little. Here's a figure 8. And if you put those cones, it's got it all. Did you see the difference in what was happening there? Those cones, when you figure 8, cross each other, and you pretty much, if you run figure 8s tight, you don't ever miss an inch. Okay, that's how Don Ivino became one of the best sonar guys in the world today. He's famous for it to this day. He's 80 years old. He can still hardly walk, but he still does his lessons. He did it with the old paper scroll graph. And he'd break down, and he's the one that invented this stuff. He's the one that brought us today to where we're at. Thank you, man. So that concludes the first part of my lesson. I hope that really got you as much as I feel like it did, and I thank you for all the undivided attention. I love what I do, and I love the fact that all of you here for it even more. This week was really cool. I didn't get to talk today at the lunch, but we had bass camp this week. And I was going to ask some of the boys what was one of their favorite parts. So since I have you, what was one of your favorite parts of bass camp?
Probably learning new techniques.
Learning new techniques. I don't have anybody else from bass camp, so do you know what my favorite part was?
Was it taking all the kids out?
You guys.
Teaching them stuff?
You guys. Love you. So thank you for all you guys do. The kids are the new pros. Little Miko here, my buddy Jason right here, and his son JJ. This is the new generation because they can go to YouTube. They can learn all the things that took myself and all my peers and all my mentors that shared with me 100 years of stuff down the line. They are learning this much faster. Like Billy, I mean, look what he's doing for us. He could keep a secret. He wants to share. So thank you, Mr. Lawson, for having me. I'm Michael McFarland. YouTube viewers, thank you guys so much. Let's get out in the water. And Billy right now and I are going to answer some questions. It doesn't have to be about graphs anymore. If you were watching and you want more, check it out. Get up here. There's going to be a lot more of this coming, guys. And I'd love to show you on the water. It's even
This
better
is time for all you guys watching live. If you've got any questions, pop them in right now. Any of you guys have any questions for me about anything at all? Yes, sir.
Right now, we talk about, let's just say Lake Fork being in a funk.
A little bit.
Okay, so what's gonna be the key thing that makes that happen? The temperature change getting cooler, things been stable for
Been
a while.
stable. And they've been stable. I've been hot,
What's it gonna
stable.
take to make it out of the funk?
Let's before we answer that, I'll take a little bit of a lead here. Let's go into the definition of what we say when we mean funk, right? Because summertime fishing in a hot climate like Texas or Florida or anywhere where it gets really hot, when we say a funk, all it means is it becomes somewhat harder to find fish when they are feeding. You can still grind it out and catch fish, but there are times
Yep.
in the summer, and that's kind of what Lake Fork is actually kind of famous for this, and this is still occurring. And there are a few guides that have their timing down right now that are smashing them because they're on the right spot at the right time. When you can find your timing, when those fish pull up to eat, you can catch a bunch in a hurry. You can have 15 minutes, you'll remember the rest of your life.
Yep.
So it isn't a funk for the everyday fisherman. It's even in a funk for guys that know what they're doing because, you know, you go out and fish 9 hours and 8.5, whew, boy, it's a grind. I mean, it's tough, a fish here, a fish there, if you're lucky. But 30 minutes, if you're on the right spot at the right time. Is that right?
100%.
So it's not really so much of a funk, it's just,
There is nothing wrong. The fish themselves are not in a funk.
yeah.
The lake is not where it should be. So fish and animals are survivalists. How many of you guys think that a fish is a creature of habit? If it was a creature of habit, it would use the exact same spot, the exact same thing, exactly every single day. It would use the same tree, the same pile of grass, the same hump. It doesn't. It's a survivalist. So when things happen like right now, no thermocline, I'm going to be silly here, but Billy and I are a couple big bass. He's a lot bigger bass than I am. We're out. We want,
Female, male.
we want to
I mean, I don't want to admit that in public, but I guess I just did.
we want to go deep. This is how we'd be chatting right now. Man, dude, that deep water, that cool water is where I want to be. And Billy would say to me, yeah, Mike, but there ain't no oxygen down there. I go, no, man, isn't that a bummer? What else can we do? Let's go back. Let's go up to the shallows. That's the next best thing.
Yeah.
I just said a key word. What's the next best thing? They have to take it. They have no choice. They don't have a heater and air conditioning, so that's what's going on, and it's abnormal for what it should be. That's the funk. Are the fish messed up? No. Are they not eating? No.
The follow-up question was, what is it gonna take to change that? What is it gonna take to right that? And from guys that I've talked to, it's not just Lake Fork. It's a general Texas situation. Hey, it's nothing out of the ordinary, guys. It's the end of July. It's August.
Dog days of summer.
You know, it can be a home run or zero time. That's just tradition. That's the way it goes here. But what's it gonna take to change it?
High winds.
Yeah, high winds can help on high wind days. I mean, you can have a few, but as far as a day in day out pattern, what's it going to take to change it? Cold front.
Yeah.
A cold front. Get a lot of cold water in the lake and take whatever little thermocline that we do have trying to set up and get that turnover going. And then once we get past that turnover, a couple weeks after that, you're right into the fish, whether the water temps have cooled enough or not. Once the turnover happens, the fish will start their fall migration, their fall setup, and then that's when they become more consistent where you can catch them throughout the day more consistently.
Uniquely enough, when you do not have a thermocline that's developed, it did not solidify, it was weak, you actually have a lighter turnover.
Yes.
The more solidified that thing gets, the worse the turnover in the fall. So and his too, my interpretation or my anticipation of this fall is going to be an off-the-chain shallow water bite. We're going to have top water starting probably about the time that first deal hits in September, end of September, October.
End of September is what I'm looking at.
And what Miko was talking about, them glide baits is going to be the first fall that we've had in a while. Everything's going to be ripe for these fish to really, really put the weight on. And on top of that, adding to it, I bet anybody here that next year we see sherlockers again. Just due to it. They're going to get fat enough in the fall. When you have a hard turnover in the fall, you can see
delays the feeding cycle.
It delays the fattening cycle. It was 6-8 weeks for a turnover. We're going to have a 2 or 3 week turnover. It's going to be quick.
Yeah, last year it drew out. 2 years ago, there was a tight window on that big bait bite, and it was tremendous for about 3 weeks, maybe 4. But this year it could be 2 months. I mean, it could be if the turnover happens, if the thermocline doesn't just really set up in the month of August, and the turnover is one of those 1 week deals, which it looks like it's going to be.
Yeah, exactly. Let's go happen. If Mother Nature cleared out and just gave us 2 weeks right now of raw heat and no wind, that thermocline would build. And it would finish.
And then it would change.
And so it's not even worth having it. Right now, don't say, oh, I hope we get it. Some people, I hope we get that. At this point, we should have had it 6 weeks ago.
Suffer
So at
through
this
August
point,
and
let
get
it
moved
go.
on.
Yes. Don't do it now because it makes the turnover worse.
That answer your question? Absolutely. All right, good job. All right, anybody else? Any more questions? Yes, sir.
Yeah, when on your sonar, when you're graphing
Okay, I'll see you later.
and you see fish,
Come on.
how do you tell what side of the boat they're on in the cone?
With a traditional sonar,
Yeah,
very
with a traditional
difficult.
sonar.
Great question.
Great question.
Great question.
That's an
So,
awesome question.
typically for every 20 foot, you have about a 15-foot diameter in your cone. So you figure your boat's 10 feet. If you're 20 feet of water, they're inside that cone, certainly. Another thing is if you may get like a half a hitch, say you got some fish underneath you, they're full arches, and you got like a half a hitch, he's sitting right outside the edge of that cone. Okay? Great question, you don't. Down scan, side scan, you do. But the old days, you didn't. You had to fish for it. You had to figure it out. A lot of times you could be in a position where you're looking at your sonar and you knew the water. Remember I talked about before intimacy with the structure. You understand. You could draw it. You pretend you close your eyes and picture what it looks like. So you could be down here offshore and you look at it and you go, well,
It's okay, don't worry about that, don't worry about that.
I got a half mark. Those fish are most likely on this side of me because that's where the point is, and over here is just no man's land. You can make some decisions, but a great question.
So are you saying, if you're in 10 foot of water, you got a 20-foot cone, 20 foot of water, 40-foot cone?
No, 10 foot, less than about 8.
Yeah. That's what I was
20
gonna say.
foot, 20 foot, you have, I'm sorry, yeah, 10 foot of water, you have about a 20 foot cone. Yes, sir. Approximately, maybe a little less than 10 feet of water.
That was the one thing I was gonna add to that. That's when it becomes important to be familiar with your cone size.
Yes, sir. And
Because-
that's what the hertz do. Change
Yeah.
the cone size.
So you gotta be familiar with your cone size because then that gives you at least a clue how much area do I need to cover to find that fish or those fish.
The shallower the water, the smaller the cone.
So that 10 foot and 20 foot, that's based on the 200?
Yes, a general 200 hertz, it should be, honestly, I said that wrong again, Kevin, I've had a lot go through my mind today. It's 15 foot diameter for every 20 foot of water at 200 hertz. That's approximate. That's approximate.
Yeah.
That's approximate. So if you're in 20 feet of water, you're going to have about a 15 foot diameter of that cone.
Hey, next question? Any online, Kev?
What's a good approach for weekend guys finding fish this time of year?
What's a good approach for a weekend guy to find fish this time of year?
I'm gonna tell them to watch your top 5 baits Q&A
That-
Thursday night.
That's a pretty good way to do it. You can watch the Top 5 Baits Q&A every Thursday night, somewhere between 7 and 8 p.m. on the Your Lake Fork Guide YouTube channel. Pretty good plug there, wasn't it, right?
Perfect.
Nailed it. No, okay, so for the weekend angler, I would honestly say for me, because I fish a little differently than you, if I was going to tell a guy to go out, I would tell him the first thing to look for is some type of vegetation with an overhead cover. So matted grass, you know,
Lily
emergent
pads,
vegetation,
lily
lily pads, hyacinth, some type of that type of vegetation that creates a canopy in 5 to 6 foot of water. And get your frog in your hand, and get weightless plastics in your hand, and get the grinding because it's probably going to be tough.
And make sure you have some bait present. If you don't see any kind of bait, some kind of life in there, get out of there.
Yeah,
You at least have
absolutely.
to have some bait, something in there.
Absolutely.
I personally like to have the month of August off. I believe it's a dog days.
It's a good
kind
month
of
to
like
have off.
it's kind of like January sometimes. If somebody asks me, Mike, what's the best way to fish? When January, when the water's 46 degrees, when it's 39 degrees, what's the best way to fish? And I tell them, I really have this perfected. Okay, when the water is 39 degrees, you will find me fishing from my couch at home.
I'm just opposite. I love fishing.
Pretty much when it's out there right now, and I don't mind the heat, I came from Arizona, but when I'm going to go out there for 8 hours and I'm only going to get bit for 35, 40 minutes of it, I have a hard time doing that. I have a hard time doing it
Let
to
me
you.
let me ask you this. Okay,
And I'm
so
getting older.
you've been a little bit more of the offshore specialist. If a guy was wanting to come out a weekend angler and he's more comfortable fishing off the bank, what's the number one bait they can throw to help them just find bites? Would it be a drop shot?
Yeah.
Is it drop shot
Right
ball?
now, answer to that question would be I would head down south, evening bite. It's much better. Get yourself on one of them main lake points. Some of that, if there happens to be any breeze, any wind, drop shots, jigs, and worms. Weekend angler, you should find some fish down there in that 12 to 20 foot range. SRA point, Little Caney point. There's a lot of outcroppings of rocks and things.
Oh, there's countless pieces
There's
of
just
structure down
countless
there.
of pieces of
Yeah.
structure down there. And those fish pull up on that stuff every single night. If you get down there and do your homework and find the timing, you can do very well this time of year. But it's short and sweet. They feed for 20, 30, 40 minutes. It's over, and it's over. You will not grind much of a bite out of those fish the rest of the day.
Any more questions? Any more online, Kev?
Nope.
No more online. Any more in here? Last chance. I'll end on that. Well, Mike, thank you. Man, that was incredible.
Thank you.
Detail.
Appreciate
My
it.
goodness.
Appreciate
That's
it.
what we're all about on the network that we're promoting on this deal, the seminars, the whole Lake Fork Tackle, your Lake Fork Guide family, the community that we're kind of building is all about trying to help each other find the next bite.
That's
You
right.
just put a lot of people on the right track, man. That was an incredible seminar. What do you guys think? Was that pretty good?
Yeah.
Outstanding. Thank you.
My pleasure, man. My pleasure. We got a lot more to come. So tell your friends to watch us. Tell your friends to come up here. I mean, we don't have a lot more room, but
We're gonna move. We're gonna actually move next week. And if you guys are from the out of state, if y'all aren't here, be sure you can follow us on Ronnie Parker's Facebook page, or the Lake Fork Tackle Facebook page on Facebook. And then, of course, the Your Lake Fort Guide YouTube channel. We stream them live. That's what we're talking to over here. We appreciate all you guys watching as well.
Absolutely.
Be sure you join 2 weeks from today for Mike's follow-up. It'll be great. Thank y'all all for coming. Check out the zigzags outside. If you're shallow water grinding, get you some zigzags.
There you go.
Thanks,
There's the
guys.
answer.